Smriti-Purananam Bhaktayo Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-padam Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritav Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavad-vyapta-dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sadashiva-samarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam Sahana-vavatu Sahanau-bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we will be looking at the text Bhaja Govindam during these sessions. I intend to do this as a continuous series of classes. Whenever we study self-knowledge, then there is a certain structure to it. So we gain this knowledge in a structured, systematic way. And the texts are also studied in a certain order. Because generally we tend to assume that spirituality means you can just join anywhere, drop in anywhere and start. Because it is about myself. So what difference does it make at whatever point I join? But that is not true, because there is a very structured teaching methodology. And then we also expect some minimum understanding, some basic knowledge, which one gets only when the texts are studied in a certain order. So Bhaja Govindam is a text that is supposed to have been composed by Adi Shankara. So we don't need to be told about the greatness of Adi Shankara. So he was one of the greatest philosopher saints, probably the greatest philosopher saint that India has ever produced, that humanity of today knows. There may have been people earlier, but as of now, from what we know, he is the greatest philosopher saint that India has produced. And he has composed a huge body of literature. He's written and then composed a lot of stotrams, a lot of verses on various topics, both devotional and directly pertaining to self-knowledge, Atmajnana. And this Bhaja Govindam is supposed to have been composed by Adi Shankara extempore during one of his visits to Varanasi in India. The story is that he was going to take a bath in the Ganga, and he saw an old man. And whatever the person was doing, which we will look into, whatever the person was doing made him come out with these verses spontaneously. The question is, why do we study the Bhaja Govindam as one of the first texts? So Bhaja Govindam is a text that gives us a very good idea about, or that educates us about what should be our priority in our life. What is it that we should be really doing for having taken birth in this world? Generally, we have so many priorities. So if we go around taking a survey of what are the priorities, different priorities people have, then we will get numerous answers, so many varieties of answers. One person may say that family is my priority. Taking care of family is my priority. Someone else might say that career is my priority. Career growth is my priority. Someone else might say that earning wealth, creating wealth is my priority. Or another person could say that the society is my priority. Working for the society is my priority. Working for the nation is my priority. So like that, we can get so many different answers. But then, is there a main purpose to our having taken birth on this earth? Is there a primary reason for which we have taken birth? Because we do so many things during the course of our life. And then when we look back at our life, when we are 50 or 60, so we will look back at our life and then find we have done so many things. And then if we try to analyze or inquire into how useful all that we have done so far, how useful has it been? Then we find that we have done so many things, been so busy, but nothing seems to remain or be retained by us at this moment. And we still continue to keep running. So when we are 30, we have done so many things. Maybe there we have derived a lot of satisfaction from a lot of what we have done. But then, are we completely at peace with ourselves? See, anything that we do, finally, it has to end up in making me completely at peace with myself or at home with myself at this moment. But then we find that even if we have done so many things, I find right now also I have a big list of things to be accomplished. And I'm running at breakneck speed. So absolutely no time for myself. So is it all, whatever I have done so far, if I have to remain like this, I have to end up like this, then is it all worth it? So this is a question that generally we get when we are 50. And then commonly it is called the midlife crisis. So whenever anyone asks this question, so has my life been really worth it? So then there are only two possibilities. One is the person is really deeply inquiring into spirituality, or the person is going through a midlife crisis, or both. So, because the person is going through a midlife crisis, the person turns to spirituality. Maybe that will help me tide over this crisis, get over this crisis. So, that is a question that that we get when we are much older. And Shankaracharya, when he saw that person doing something on the banks of the Ganga, he spontaneously composed these verses because he felt that that person was not doing what he was really supposed to do. So when Adi Shankara saw this person, so he felt he wanted to criticize this person or really shake up this person and then ask him, what are you really doing with your life? So that is what he intended to do. And those verses become very useful for us to give clarity about what should really be the priority in our life. In Sanskrit, we call it the Purushartha Nishchaya. In fact, this is the first thing that we should have clarity about when we start pursuit of this self-knowledge. So even though some of us may be doing something related. So some of us may be doing yoga or any other kind of work that is related to one's spiritual growth. But still, it is a good thing to really inquire into how it is contributing towards my gaining this self-knowledge. So any activity. So if it is not helpful, if it is not contributing much towards my own spiritual growth, then Shankaracharya and the Shastra advises that if you're really serious about using this birth properly, then it's better you cut down on that activity. You give up that activity to a certain extent. May not be immediately, but at least over a period of time. So one needs to reduce because it's not helping. So this is what we call Purushartha Nishchaya. And that is one thing that we get a lot of clarity about from understanding the Bhaja Govindam. The Bhaja Govindam, it also has another name. It is also called Moha Mudgara. Moha Mudgara. Moha means delusion. And Mudgara means a hammer. Moha Mudgara means that which pulverizes one's delusion. So hammers it out of shape. So whatever false ideas I have or wrong priorities I have, they are completely pulverized out of shape. That is why it is called the Moha Mudgara. And the Bhaja Govindam complete set, it is a total of 31 verses. We will look at all of these verses. So the first 12 verses are supposed to have been composed by Adi Shankara himself. And the story is that when he was going to take bath in the Ganga, then there were 14 disciples with him, along with him. The first 12 verses he spontaneously composed. And then when he composed, the verses were so beautiful that Shankaracharya's disciples also felt inspired to compose one verse each. So there were 14 disciples, and they composed one verse each. So 12 plus 14, 26. And then they say that Shankaracharya himself composed the last 5 or so as a blessing to his disciples. So as a conclusion. So this is about all the verses that are there in the Bhaja Govindam or the Moha Mudgara. So as I said, the reason that we are looking into the Bhaja Govindam is so that we get absolute clarity about what is important to do in our life and what is all avoidable. And directly from the mouth of Adi Shankaracharya himself. Because if some individual says that, if I say that, then it will be open to debate. But if an Adi Shankara says that, then we try to understand as to why he's saying. So that is, and there is a reason, and these are very, very beautiful, beautiful verses. And very musical also. So we will look into the first verse. I will just recite this verse. You can hear. Generally, if it was a live class, I can ask you to chant after me. But now if we do that, then because of we are all in so many different locations, there will be time lag and it will be a total cacophony. So I will just chant, you can listen. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. So Shankaracharya sees this person, sees this old man who is taking a dip in the Ganga, and he sees him muttering something, saying something. And he says, Bhaja Govindam. So worship Govinda. Worship the Almighty. Govinda stands for the Almighty. Even though Govinda is one of the names of Lord Krishna. So here we understand the meaning of Govinda as not just the person, the individual Krishna, but the Creator Himself, the Almighty. We will see why we understand Govinda like that when we look into the meaning of the word Govinda itself. So we will look at different ways we look at the word Govinda. Because the Sanskrit language, it lends itself to looking at every word and very etymological. So one who has really studied Sanskrit properly, whenever you look at a Sanskrit word, then mentally you disintegrate the word. You break it up into different components. And then look at the meaning of each of the individual components and then look at it holistically. So because the language allows you to do that, you get a much better understanding of each word. So we will see how it is done, then you will get a better idea. So bhaja means worship. In fact, the etymological meaning of the word bhaja means to serve. So here, bhaja means serving the Almighty, serving the Lord. I'll give you the overall meaning of the verse first, and then we will go into the meaning of each and every word. That is how the teaching is done. So when you study a verse, any text, you look at the verse or you look at the sentence, and then you try to understand the meaning of each and every word of the verse or the sentence. That is how teaching is done. It is completely thorough, with no room for any ambiguity or any confusion whatsoever. That is why the teaching is so precise and watertight, airtight, whatever you want to call it, and completely foolproof. So you can't find any flaw from anywhere. So the overall meaning of the verse would be Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Worship Govinda, the Almighty. Again, worship Govinda, the Almighty. Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. So worship Govinda, O dull-witted person. So he is criticizing the old man, poor old man. Unfortunately, he came within the range of Adi Shankara. So, I mean, not really in a disrespectful way, but I mean, there is nothing personal. But in the sense of Shankara wanted to criticize that person because he was wasting his time. So, Govindam Bhaja Mudha Mate. So, Mudha means one who has a dull intellect. Mati is intellect. Mudha is dull. So, one who has a dull intellect. Samprapte sannihite kale. So, when the time for your dropping this body approaches, sannihite kale, nahi rakshati dukrin karani. So, whatever you are muttering or whatever you are doing now is not going to protect you. Because, like I said, So when we get older, that is when we really start asking all these questions. Am I really going in the right direction? Am I doing the right things in my life? So has it all been worth it? Has all the struggle that I have gone through in my life, has it all been worth it? Earlier, we are just doing a lot of things mechanically. So in my childhood, up to my until I become an adult, a lot of what I do is decided by my parents or the people around me. And once I become an adult, then I get more freedom. But a lot of what I do generally is in line with whatever everyone else in the society is doing. So I take up a job. Yes, there are some basic needs that every person has. So I need to provide for myself. But more than that, I'm just doing everything, living my life very mechanically. I take up a job and then I start earning. And then when I'm 25, 26, then the biological need kicks in. And even if I don't have such a strong biological urge for a relationship, still the society starts asking me, when are you going to get married? So when are you going to find a partner? So in fact, I'll tell you an interesting experience that I had when I was that age, when I was 26, 27. So that was the time I was working in the US. So, and before that, I had got this interest in spirituality before that, when I was 22, 23. So I decided this is what I'm going to do. And when I was working there, then people, I mean, people in my workplace who were around my same age. So they were all white Americans. So they asked me, so who's your partner? So do you have a girlfriend? So when I said, no, I don't have one and I've never had one in my life, it was so difficult for them to really believe that. How is it possible that a guy who's 26, 27, so has not had a partner so far? So there are only two possibilities. One is either, even then, the other possibility, either you are gay, then also you can have a partner, or there is something wrong with you. So the society starts looking at you like that. So when you reach that age, then you need to do things that the society expects you to do. So even if you don't really want one, in India, what people do is get the person married. In the West, it does not happen. So they only nudge you towards finding a partner. In India, parents, relatives, everyone starts asking, when are you going to get married? So when are you going to give us a marriage feast? That is how they ask. And they push you. Okay, you get married. And then after a couple of years, they start asking you, when are you going to have children? So you got married because you could not stand their pestering, their nagging. So then he said, okay, at least to stop them. Okay, everyone is doing this, I will also do it. So maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Everyone is supposed to. So then after a couple of years, they start asking me, when are you going to have kids? So once you have kid, then you don't even have time to think. So you have to raise the kid, you start running, and you don't stop until the kid is 18 or 20. So by that time, you are 50, almost 45 or 50. Then you start asking this question, has it all really been worth it? Whatever I have done. So here Shankaracharya says, Samprapte sannihite kale. So he doesn't even, that the old person that Shankaracharya saw was supposed to have been around 75 years of age. 75 means you don't have too much time left anyway. You may not. So that is around the average lifetime. So, but that person, whatever he is doing now, he says it is not going to save you at the time of your death. So what was he doing? Dukrin Karane. Dukrin Karane, generally it is translated as he was trying to memorize something related to Sanskrit grammar. So Vyakarna. So that is the normal way it is in which this Dukrin Karane is understood. But we will give it a different meaning also, which is more meaningful. So they say, people, when they translate it as something connected to grammar, so memorizing something connected to grammar. So people say that it is no use studying grammar at 75. One thing is, it is very difficult to study grammar at 75 because there is a lot of memorization to be done. And when you're older, it becomes more difficult to retain. So if you want to study grammar, Sanskrit grammar especially, better start when you are younger. So don't postpone it for later because it's going to become extremely difficult. So the other meaning of this Dukran Karane is Dukran is a dhatu, means the whole Sanskrit language, any word in the Sanskrit language, it is supposed to be derived from a set of 2000 roots. See, we have it in Latin also, Latin and Greek also. They are also highly etymological languages. So any word in Latin. So there are some people from Scandinavia also here. So if you have studied Latin, then Latin is also a etymological language. So you have a set of, so each word is derived from some root. So one of the set of roots that are there. And then it gets modified and transforms into another form. So Sanskrit is also like that. It is, or any word in the Sanskrit language, it is derived from a set of around 2000 roots. So Dukrin is one of the roots. One of the basic root means basic building block of the language. The most fundamental building block of the language. So Dukrin, the meaning of the root is Karane, is doing. So the Dhatu Pata, all these roots are listed out in what we call the Dhatu Pata. all these 2000 roots. The root is mentioned along with the meaning of the root. So what is the meaning? The root meaning. So Dukrin Karane, that is how it is seen in the Dhatu Pata. So where we have all the roots listed. So Kr is the root out of Dukrin, Kr is the root, and Karane means in the sense of doing or action or activity. So Kr, the root, is always used in the sense of some kind of activity. That is why in Sanskrit, Karoti, Kuru, all these are derived from Kr. So when we look at it like that, when we look at it from the standpoint of the meaning of the root, then Dukrin Karane would mean Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane would mean that don't waste your life on useless activities. That is what it would be. That is what the sentence would be. So instead of aimlessly mechanically doing something or the other, make your life more purposeful. That is what Shankaracharya is trying to say. Probably the old man was not paying much attention to gaining self-knowledge. Because in India also, you will find the Vedas are divided into two portions. So one portion comprises almost entirely of rituals. And the later portion talks about knowledge of oneself. So normally, most of the people are focused on the ritual part. Because for one to be able to pursue spirituality, one needs certain amount of preparation. And one needs a certain preparedness of mind. And that most people do not have. Why am I saying this? Because you go and shout on the street that I will teach you about self-knowledge. Just to see how many people respond to that call. 99.9% would say that I have better things to do, I have more important things to do. And then I will probably come to you. In India, at least, so people might say that not now, maybe after retirement I will come. Because culturally there is some value for this knowledge. So people will not junk it outright. So they will say that not now, maybe later. But if you say the same thing in the West, then the first response would be of surprise or curiosity. What is this person really talking about? Because it is not there in the culture. I mean, pursuing self-knowledge is not found so widely in the culture. So, what Shankaracharya is trying to say is that doing rituals gives you only limited result. Any ritual, doing any activity, we can take it as any activity or any religious ritual, religious activity. So that gives you only a limited result. So you can enjoy the result either in this lifetime or after death. Because there are rituals which you can perform while you are alive, but the result you will enjoy after you die. In terms of going to some other place, heaven, or as far as we are concerned, we don't talk of one heaven. We talk about so many different dimensions, so many different lokas that one can go to after death, which is also true. So you do a certain ritual, the Vedas say that you will go to this loka, you will enjoy. You will have this kind of experience, enjoyable experience that you will have. And people are fascinated by that, enamored by that, and they are attracted by it. But if you talk about moksha, then it is such an intangible thing. So people do not find it very fascinating or find it very interesting. So Shankaracharya, he wants to impress upon this person that aimlessly running around a life of hectic activity is only going to keep you in this cycle of birth and death without really understanding the bigger picture, without really having sight of the bigger picture. So because when I'm so convinced about what I'm doing, then I have concluded that this is the right thing for me to do at this point. But I need to be educated about what is the bigger picture. So this does not mean that we should stop doing whatever we are doing. But at the same time, it is necessary to have the bigger picture in mind so that this activity, I don't regret later. So when I have the bigger picture, then whatever I'm doing becomes more purposeful, more meaningful. Suppose it is even taking care of my family. Then performing my duties. Then the Shastra, Bhagavad Gita talks about Karma Yoga. So doing one's activity, doing one's duties with a certain attitude, that helps in refining the mind, preparing the mind. It is not intended primarily for getting result, a certain result. But I develop the attitude so that I accept whatever result comes out of the activity. But my intention of doing that activity is primarily for preparing my mind for this self-knowledge. So all activities become meaningful. There is nothing that is wasted. And at one point, I will find that I can also give up activity very, very gently and without any resistance. Because if I don't prepare myself and give up the activity, then it becomes I cannot handle it. My mind cannot handle it. Because even if I try to sit quiet for a certain length of time without doing anything, then it becomes such a difficult thing to do. Doing something or the other is easy because you distract yourself. But sitting quiet is the most difficult activity. So, Shankaracharya says, Samprapte sannihite kale, nahi nahi rakshati dukrant karani. So, mechanically doing anything or doing activity which will only give you a certain limited result, that will not help you get out of this cycle of birth and death. Nahi nahi rakshati. So you will come back next lifetime. We have done that so many lifetimes. So we have done the same thing. So being born, growing up, so having some education, and then earn money, get a job, uh, and then get married, have children, grow old, and die. You have done this so many times, believe it or not. And Shankaracharya says you will continue to do it again and again. In the next lifetime also, you will start from the scratch. And then you will run at breakneck speed, recklessly, and then die. It is like all these moths and these flies. They just come out of nowhere and then just fly here and there and perish. We are also no different. So don't think because we are human beings, we are very evolved. So whatever we are doing is meaningful. Not necessarily. I'm not saying that, Shankaracharya is saying. So don't think I'm making some statement on my. So we will keep repeating this. This cycle will keep repeating again and again and again and again. And then do we want to remain in this? The Shastra says that the more intelligent way of dealing with this is working to get out of this. Because any human being's life is a mixture of pleasure and pain. So life is never going to be just perfect, even though we would want it to be like that. Even though we all hope that there will be one day when everything is fixed. So everything becomes all right. There will never be a day. And a human being's lifetime is always going to be a mixture. In fact, it is going to be more struggle, less fun. It is not more fun, less struggle. So the best way to look at it would be to find out how to break this cycle. So how to break this chain. That is exactly what Shankaracharya is talking about. And what does he recommend here? Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja. So Bhaja, as I said, worship. Worship with all devotion. Govinda. So we will look into the meaning of the word Govinda. So Shankaracharya himself, he gives the meaning of the word Govinda in one of his commentaries that he has written for Vishnu Sahasranam. There is one text, so which has 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. In fact, this is supposed to have been taught to Yudhishthira, the Pandavas, by Bhishma in the presence of Lord Krishna. in the Mahabharata. So when Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows, these people after the war, they went to him, and that is when Bhishma gave these 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. So one of the names of Lord Vishnu is Govinda, because Krishna is none other than Lord Vishnu himself. So Govinda is one of the names of Lord Vishnu. So Shankaracharya gives four meanings of the word Govinda. And why are we looking into it? We will find that all these meanings finally amount to refer, or finally refer only to the absolute reality, which is the truth of myself. So the reality of Lord Vishnu is also the reality of myself. It all indirectly refers to that consciousness which is the source of my existence. Govinda, the meaning of the word, what I'm trying to say is the meaning of the word Govinda is nothing other than that pure consciousness which is the truth of myself. So the first meaning of the word Govinda, he says, is one who has understood the basic, the underlying support of the creation, what the creation is supported by or sustained by. That means he has to be the Almighty, one who has understood the sustaining factor of the creation, the source of the creation, has to be the Almighty. So that is one of the meanings of the word Govinda. Or in other words, it could mean one who has found the essence of the earth, or knows the creation, one who has complete knowledge of the creation, one who has complete knowledge of the creation, or one who has knowledge of the truth of the creation. So that would refer to the Almighty. The second meaning of the word Govinda is one who is the master of all life forms, or one who is the creator of all life forms. That is the second meaning of the word Govinda. So the creator of all creatures, of all life forms, is none other than the intelligent creator. And that creator is none other than, the truth of the creator is just consciousness. So that is the second meaning of the word Govinda. The third meaning of the word Govinda is one who gives us the capacity to speak. See, if I'm able to speak, then I need to be alive to speak. What keeps me alive? Consciousness alone keeps me alive. So if I'm not alive, then I would not be able to speak. So that which helps me, that which gives me the capacity to speak, is that consciousness, that Atma. So that is on which all activities depend upon. Anything that I do depends upon my being alive. So if that consciousness did not bless me to be alive, then I would not be able to do anything. Unfortunately, unfortunately, I completely ignore this. So normally, I think that the body keeps me alive. I don't acknowledge the importance of that consciousness. In fact, that is my reality. That is my true self. And the whole idea of this pursuit is only to own up my real self, own up my true reality, not restrict myself to this body mind. The body mind, being identified with the body mind, is only incidental. It is not completely true. It is only a temporary reality. And I am much bigger or much more than just this body mind that I'm identified with. So that is the third meaning. So one, that which gives me the power to speak. That is the third meaning of the word Govinda. And then Shankaracharya also gives one more meaning, which is one who has known by studying the Vedas as the absolute reality, as the one all-pervading, limitless consciousness. So that which is known, that which is understood from the Vedas. So there are four meanings that we saw. I will repeat it once more. The first meaning is one who has complete knowledge of the creation. So which can only be the Almighty. And the truth of that Almighty is only that Brahman or consciousness. The second meaning is that one who is the truth of all life forms, who is the master of all life forms, who is the creator of all life forms. Again, that also refers to the same consciousness. And the third meaning is one who gives us the capacity to speak, which also amounts to the same consciousness, which is the truth of myself. And the fourth meaning is one who is known by studying the Veda, studying the Upanishad. So that knowledge that we get from the Upanishad, and that knowledge is also of the same absolute reality. So the meaning, what is meant here, or what is pointed out here, is that Bhaja Govindam means focus your mind on gaining that knowledge of the truth of yourself. Even if you don't remember all the detail that we talked about. So it is good if you just remember that Bhaja Govindam, worship Govinda, essentially what it means is that you have to do everything that is possible to gain knowledge of the truth of ourselves in this lifetime, don't waste your time by doing all unnecessary activities. So that is what Shankaracharya is trying to point out or trying to impress upon us in the first verse. In fact, whenever we look at each of the later verses, we always chant this verse. So this verse is, that verse is chanted, and then this verse, it's like it is repeated again and again. So this is the whole theme of the Bhaja Govindam or the Moha Mudgara. When this is the theme, that is why it is called the hammer that pulverizes all delusion. Because it just hammers into us the importance of gaining self-knowledge in this lifetime. That is why it's called Moha Mudgara. So that which pulverizes all delusion. So that is why this text we study in the beginning, because it brings out the importance of this pursuit of self-knowledge over and above everything else that we do. So we will stop here and then we will continue next. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Hari Om.